Hi everyone, I'm Blair. Some of you might know me as Lady Solo, and welcome to my YouTube channel and my very first YouTube video. So I decided to start this channel because I've had a lot of people reach out to me about how do I make my costumes, and also how do I do some type of technique or something like that. I've been sharing a lot of my builds that I do on social media, on forums, and I find that, it's a little challenging to share some of this information just via photo and text, and I also get tired of typing. So figured doing the video would be a easier way to do it. Funny thing is, I actually bought a camera a while ago, and I wrote my very first script, I'm gonna quote script, and because I was so excited, and I've had this done for weeks now, maybe even months. I was having trouble getting the inspiration. Maybe it was inspiration or a little bit of it's a little intimidating. I love talking to people and talking in front of people, but something about talking to a camera that I still haven't quite gotten used to yet. So bear with me as I learn to talk to you through the camera. Gonna take a little bit of a learning curve there. But the funny thing is I'm totally off script already. Which is good, right? Scripts kind of make you a little rigid, but it's because something happened this weekend that really gave me the inspiration to do this video and to get this moving and get this going, to start sharing things with you all. And what that was is it was C2E2 weekend, one of my favorite cons of the year in Chicago. Amazing cosplay, great people, love it, good Midwest vibe. Such a positive experience, but what made it even better was one of my heroes was there. Mr. Adam Savage, love him, he's an inspiration. Love this book, by the way, his book is great. I've read it twice through, front and back. Absolutely wonderful, highly recommend. But got to meet him, got an autograph, got a photo, went to his panel, and I think he nailed it when his autograph, he wrote, stay obsessed. If only he knew how obsessed I am. Not with him, but just with costuming and the likes and everything that's in this book. Good read. Get it. But his panel, let me just tell you, his panel was so good. I know he's actually getting around to more cons this year, so if he's coming and you have an opportunity to see his panel, go to it. It's wonderful. He is such a great speaker, so inspiring, and also so humble. He is genuinely just as excited as you are, and I think that's great. Sometimes you're afraid to meet your heroes because you think they'll disappoint. He won't disappoint. You will be hopefully just as giddy as I am, and still excited, even though it's Tuesday and this was over the weekend. So. But I wanted to talk about two things that I guess it was two things. One was more of just seeing his panel, and it's more of an observation of Adam, and then one thing that he actually said at the panel. So the first thing that I think is the observation of Adam, but he did allude to it several times in the panel, is his love of storytelling, his love for the art of the narrative. And if you know anything about Adam and you follow his work, even reading his book, to Mythbusters, to watching tested in his one-day builds, everything that he does, every decision that he makes, specifically when he's starting into his builds and when he decides he wants to build, is really constructed around a story. And it's a story that he wants to tell, but it's also intertwined with other stories. Specifically, like here's a perfect example. On Friday at C2E2, Adam wore one of his Captain America cosplays, and and actually I think he just released a video. I can't remember if it was yesterday or today. I can't keep my days straight, but you can go and find it. He was talking about his costume, his Captain America costume, and he was thinking about this costume, and when he loves a costume, he has an obsession about wanting to find a thing to store it in, it seems. And so he was obsessing over, and specifically was inspired by a scene in one of the Marvel movies. And Cap's like, yeah, let me go get my costume, or I should say uniform. Cap would say uniform. I gotta go put my uniform on. And So he, in this universe, he's thinking, all right, so Cap has his uniform, what's he gonna store it in? So Adam obsessed over figuring out the perfect container that would be within Cap's story in that universe to store his costume in. And so he made this box, and it's a beautiful metal box, and it's got a great feel, and all, you know, if you're a fan of Savage, you know all the little details that he puts into his build, and it's just every little thing, and each little thing has its own little, usually sub-story that all come together to tell the bigger story. And he made this, and what's so amazing about the way that Adam tells stories is that you don't have to tell stories through words. You can tell stories visually, as we all know, but this box that he made for his Captain America costume on its own tells a story. And I think that's really, really special, and that's what I think I love about costuming and cosplay, and I love about creating art, is that we're telling stories, and we're telling stories in different ways, and that really resonates with me, and actually because it takes me kind of back to my roots, to kind of how I got to where I'm at today. Just so you know, by day, I'm actually a software engineer. Started that journey a while ago. Actually thought I was just gonna design websites. I never really thought I wanted to code them. But through how life takes you, I ended up finding I really actually like programming, and I suck at designing. I can do it. It's just, it's not my strong suit. But I went to school saying, I want to design websites. And I found that too through another journey. I mean, I thought I wanted to be a musician, so I was playing bass, and I got into websites because I had friends in bands like, hey, who knows how to make us a website? I was like, I could figure that out. Oh, you know what? This is kind of fun. So I actually went to Columbia College, and I got my undergraduate in interactive multimedia with a minor in web development. And so when we look at what the major is, multimedia, get the media in there. I actually had no idea what I was getting in, but at that time, you know, going to school for building websites was still kind of a new concept. Now you have everything with boot camps and all these different, you know, things that you can do, but back then there weren't a ton of choices unless you went straight into computer science. So places and universities were still developing these programs. So my degree is a little weird, but it was kind of one of the best things I could have done, because I absolutely loved it. I got my hands on so many different ways to tell stories. One of my classes was in media theory, and that's just really starting to understand how different mediums tell stories, tell narratives, and getting all the way back into learning about Plato and the way that the mind thinks and the way that humans respond, to understand how to tell these stories and what they mean, and taking that and applying it into modern media, and also in advertising, and the way that, you know, how these visuals and text and audio all play into telling these stories. And so, yeah, it was kind of it's been so great to have Adam as one of my heroes and watching this stuff, and then finally having it culminate and seeing him in person and being a part of this, and him telling these stories. So it was amazing to actually be a part of his story, right? Every little thing that we do becomes a greater part of someone else's stories and our own stories, and our own narratives. So that was really, really wonderful. And so that's also why what really inspired me to get going on these videos, because I want to share these stories. I want to share my stories of how I make things, how I build things, my life things. It's just fun, and it's fun for me. It's also memories for me. So yeah, hopefully you go on this journey with me. I'll tell stories. I'd love to hear your stories. Hopefully it'll be a good time. The other thing that I wanted to talk about Adam was a thing that he said in response to a question he was asked. And the question that he was asked was, what was one of your biggest failures in a build or something like that? And he goes, stop. We need to stop right here. We need to stop using the word failure, specifically when we're talking about cosplay or costuming, right? And failure is just it's kind of a negative word. And really, is it a failure? I mean, really, it's only a failure if you quit and you give up. So he changed. He's like, instead of failure, let's use iteration. And I think that's a really great word to use. Being a software engineer, one of the biggest things that we talk about is iterative development. And, we have to build a large piece of software. We don't get it right in the first shot. And plus, if we tried to build it all at once, I guarantee it's going to be absolutely not a good thing. I've been a part of those things. Death marches, go look that up. You don't want to do that. It's kind of like Con Crunch in a weird way, which I also don't like Con Crunch. But when we talk about iterations, right, we're talking about starting with something small, getting it working, getting it looking okay, and building on it and building on it and building on it and making it better. And I think that's a really great way to think about it. When you remove that negative and think about it as this iterative journey, right? Listen, we're gonna go back to telling these stories, these iterative stories. We keep building on it and building on it. It's a wonderful way to get from where you're at to whatever destination you want to go. It's much more positive too, knowing that you might not get it right off the front, but that's okay. It's part of the process. And so, yeah, I think that's, as we go through all this stuff and as I share the things that I'm doing, it's going to be a lot of iteration. And that's another thing. I'll be sharing the way that I like to do things. And you might be like, why is she doing that way? It's kind of weird. I do things in weird ways. It's also a matter of what do I want to learn versus what can my body do? So playing bass, typing the computer today, my hands don't quite work the way in old sports injuries. So I might do things some weird ways, but guess what? It works for me, causes me less pain. So, bear with me with some of that stuff, but hey, it might inspire you to do something. But just because I'm doing it this way, and maybe you might think it's the wrong way, great. I got whatever end result I wanted. But if it works for you, whatever, you just do what works for you. Hopefully you can pick up some tips. Maybe they work for you, maybe they don't. Who knows? That's what's all fun about this. We all get to experiment. So with that being said, I want to talk about my 2 costume builds that I'm working on, which I'll be working on for the next several months. And they will be the topics and subjects of most of the videos that I'm doing. But I picked these 2 costumes first off because I'm really excited about them. Always got to have that excitement. I love the characters. They also have amazing stories again. And really had to do that. I had mastered a lot of different techniques so far. Got into sewing. I got into 3D printing. Started working with Sintra and armor. I built a Mandalorian, not the Mandalorian, but my own version. And I wanted to start learning more. My favorite thing is to learn. So I get bored if I'm not learning and I start repeating things. I always start looking for new techniques to learn. So that's why I picked these 2 costumes on top of just being super, super excited. So I'll start with my first costume, which is going to be my primary costume that I kind of want to get done first, but we'll see how this actually goes. And we pull this over without knocking everything over, because that could be a thing. But I don't know if you don't recognize what this is, because this is all my mock-up. But there's a little bit more in the middle. This is the mock-up for Isaac from the Orville. If you have not watched the Orville, highly, highly recommend it. It was on Fox. They're moving to Hulu. Seth MacFarlane, I love you. If you're, so good. He did such a great job. You can tell that he is a big Star Trek fan. Just an FYI, but has taken the Orville to a different place. But if you're a Trekkie, I think you're gonna love the Orville. By the way, a lot of people know me from Star Wars costuming. Shh, I was a Trekkie first. Live long and prosper. Don't tell anybody. But yes, Orville. Isaac. Let's get back to this. It's also funny too, by the way, me being a Trekkie first. I don't know if I always find myself, you're going to see a theme here in a little bit. Love Data. Data growing up, I don't know. I was fascinated by him. I watched Star Trek with my dad as a kid, Next Generation. That was the thing that we did that was like father-daughter time in Data. Both him and I had a love for him. My dad's an electrical engineer, go figure, right? So anyway, we got another AI here. Wonder why. Love Isaac. So anyway, this is the Isaac jumpsuit that I've been working on. I've been slaving over. This is like, again, my 4th iteration, not failure, iteration of this jumpsuit, because let's just say Kalon to have a more male figure versus my female figure, and I love accuracy, and I love trying to, the costume has to fit right to really capture the character, and so I've become a little obsessive over the details and over fit, because I think it all plays together. So it took me a while. That's why I'm on 4. But the super fun thing that I do like is because I do obsess over accuracy is like, how do I get these things to fit my figure without straying too far from accuracy? Hidden darts. You're not going to be able to see these, but it actually allowed me to fit this jumpsuit better to my figure and still kind of maintain the integrity of it. It'll be covered by the armor that'll be on here. But yeah, super fun, super excited. So a little quick thing that I'm going to be working on next is finally I'm ready to go into actually working on this costume and the actual fabrics. And here, let me grab these. These are actually fun fabrics I'll be working on. All this white that you see is actually going to be done in this silver kind of, I have like, it's like almost like a stretchy legging vinyl material. But it has to be all, look at all that fun quilting that's going to have to take place here. But should be super fun. Nice, actually, I find sewing very meditative. It's away from a computer, which I've stared at all day, and I do some of my best thinking. I'm just doing very tedious sewing. Really lots of fun. The other thing, so these black panels are going to be an even more fun effort to do. So pretty sure that the fabric here might have been screen printed. I have so many techniques I want to learn. Screen printing, unfortunately, is very far down the list. So I actually kind of, like I said, I don't mind those tedious things. So what I'm gonna do is I made a fabric sample here. So this is my actual fabric. But if you look at it, this has a nice little pattern on it. And the funny thing is I had posted this on on a group I'm a part of. It's an Orville costuming group. And one of the guys that I think had a hand on part of the actual screen-worn Isaac costume asked me where I got this fabric. And I told him I made it. So I think I might have fooled him. I actually made it out of Sharpie and puff paint, but I think it looks pretty good, right? Gotta love those just simple techniques, but they work really well. I think the challenge is going to be scaling this up with the Sharpie. I think if I take my time, it'll be okay. But just the good thing too is I have the puff paint on here, so I'm probably not going to draw the straight lines all at once, so it might get a little wonky, but then I'm going to have start and stop points of the Sharpie, but I can cover it with the dots if I do it right. So that's super cool. Other fun thing on this build that I get to do is I haven't worked in EVA foam before. Which is surprising. I've done Sintra and some other things, but not EVA. I think I'm going to start with this in EVA. Eventually, I'll probably upgrade this. I think the actual screen worn might have been a casted urethane model from what I know, a rubber model, maybe down the road. But this costume is a pain because of all the fabrics, I swear, are all custom. The chest piece has some really interesting details on it that are going to be really challenging to replicate. But I'm gonna get inventive here. I've been absolutely fascinated. I've been watching people print on fabric with their 3D printers and flexible filament. I think I'm gonna try that because of the way that this looks. I might be able to print on a mesh, overlay it on top of a metallic fabric. And I think I might be able to pull that look off. So looking forward to that. That'll be some fun experiments. We're looking forward to sharing with everybody. The other super fun part of this costume is the helmet. Here is where I'm currently at with this helmet. So, like I said, learning techniques. So I have recently been really getting into 3D printing. I have a CR10S5. It's a large format printer because I knew I wanted to build and make larger pieces. So, talking about skills again, I'm not very good. I haven't really bothered to sit down and learn how to 3D model, and I wanted to make these costumes. I will be doing and learning some 3D modeling, little tiny stuff for Isaac. There's parts of the belt and some other detailing that I'll need to be able to do. So well, maybe in a few months or so I'll be getting to that. But I really wanted to get the helmet started because this is going to be probably very, very challenging. So this has been 3D printed. Again, I talked about I love my accuracy. So what you see going on here is the person that made this model did a really great job on it. It gave me a really great starting point, but I needed to modify it to make it more accurate. So where you can see all the gray, I've used epoxy sculpt, and I'm slowly working on sculpting it out, getting it the look and feel that I want. Once that's done, this will get primed, smooth it down, sanded, make sure I'm all happy with everything in the shape. These will become the bucks for vacuum forming. And why does this have to be vacuum formed? It's got to be vacuum formed because it's actually really interesting construction, and it's going to probably be a lot of trial and error. The trick of this is, notice there's no eye holes. So I have to be able to see out of this, and how, from everything, the research that I've done, that this is actually been vacuum formed in a clear plastic, and it's been painted in a way that you can see out, but you can't see in. So I think I'm going to vacuum form, then I'm going to dye to tint the plastic darker, and then I'm going to get really clever with some of the paint jobs, but that's going to be really fun, and definitely I'm sure there's going to be a lot of iteration there. So remember I talked about my love of AI and my love of data. Now we have Isaac, my other build. This is actually one of my dream builds. C-3PO, so excited for this. And I will actually be completely 3D printing this for the most part. So the fun thing with this is, and why this is my dream costume, and this is, again, going on journeys and stories, and this is a fun one. I always believe that, might not be a very religious person, but I believe that we all go on journeys, and the universe likes to tell us things. And this one was one of those. I got told, and I had to listen and follow. It's more just about following your heart and your feelings, right? But I know I've been doing costuming for about 6 years or so now, and so slowly building my skills up from barely knowing how to sew to making and drafting my own patterns and doing these crazy Isaac jumpsuits now. And so actually it was C-3PO I've always loved since I was a kid. I'm a huge Star Wars fan as well. So I went to my very first Star Wars celebration a few years ago in Orlando. And I was wearing one of my Han Solos, aka Lady Solo. Yes, Han Solo is my spirit animal. But I was with a really great Chewbacca cosplayer. You might get mad that I called him a cosplayer, but costumer, we'll go with that word. So he told me, he's like, he knew a really amazing C-3PO. It's his buddy. He'd be out there, and the C-3PO, his name's Gordon Tarplay, who, by the way, is an amazing C-3PO. He also has a YouTube channel which I highly recommend you check out. He's a huge inspiration of mine, and I'll go into why in a little bit. But so what happened was we were both, and my buddy was in his Chewbacca, I was in my Solo, and we went to go and find Gordon and the C-3PO. And I remember walking up on Gordon, and he's in C-3PO with an R2 right in front of him, and I lost it, like in all the good ways, and in the, when you're a kid watching Star Wars ways of just that awe. I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought people didn't really do that costume outside of actually like official like Lucasfilms events. And to see Gordon, he was the first person I've ever seen kind of like in real life doing C-3PO. I was amazed, and I was like, I would love to do that. But the first thought that went through my head at that time was, I could never build that. I could never do that. Like, I don't think I could do it at all. I also have a little bit of claustrophobia for me. Let's just say back from soccer and getting dogpiled on after scoring a goal. That introduced a whole new level of claustrophobia for me. I was like, I could never do that. I couldn't do it. So time went by, and I think I don't know if it was I can't remember, 2 or 3 years. I can't keep track of time anymore these days. And I kept building up my skills, and working on armor and doing other things. And so it was interesting. I was actually out in LA. Gordon's actually out in LA for the Rise of Skywalker premiere. And I was ended up going to the Chinese theater. And guess who I saw there? It was Gordon. And guess what Gordon was doing there? He was putting on his C-3PO. And at that moment, I reflected back from the very first, because I think I'd saw Gordon once in person. We'd kind of have a little bit of like social media interaction, but not much outside of that. Then I'd seen him briefly at San Diego Comic-Con. He was working at I think it was at the Regal Robot booth. I don't know, Gordon, if you're watching this, sorry if I got that wrong. I can't remember. But so I'm there, and so seeing him at the Chinese theater and just kind of the journey that I went on from the first time I saw him in C-3PO to now seeing him suit up again in C-3PO, I literally at that moment went, Gordon, I'm making this costume. I'm doing this. I'm going to make one right now. I'm going to do it. And I decided because I finally realized that I had built up the confidence and the skill sets to do it. I'm still learning my 3D printing. And the interesting fun thing is I'm going to learn how to chrome. I can do this. I'm a big fan of being able to do all the techniques myself for the costumes so I can maintain them. Plus, it's part of the fun. Yes, it's a little bit of an investment, but I'm really looking forward to doing that. But, you know, it was just kind of interesting how my journey and my story has taken me from kind of like this whole full circle to the moment to now where I'm actually feeling like I can make this. Another thing that came is I had a friend help me build a stormtrooper, and wearing that helmet, and I have a Mando as well. Helped me kind of get over my my claustrophobia. I've tried on pieces. I have the whole front torso printed. I've got the legs printed. I have to actually redo the legs. I'm a little shorter than Anthony Daniels. It's just a little bit more hips. So I'm going to be working on that. But I've gotten parts of it on, including the mask, and it's actually not too bad. I think it's more like I actually am more claustrophobic in my stormtrooper, so I feel like I'm trapped in a little tiny room because I actually have space where putting on C-3PO for me feels like a second skin. And also I think I'm more invested in love, like the same thing with Isaac. I can't tell you how excited I am. It's down. How excited I am. Oh, that's gonna fall. How excited I am to we're just gonna lay down. To actually do these characters. Like, I'm very excited to put it on kind of for the first time and just become those characters. There's something that excitement I think will take away from the pain and the claustrophobia. So I'm super excited for that. It's kind of like, actually it's funny, going back to Adam Savage. I had my Empire Strike Back Han Solo that I have, which is like my first like really proud, like not closet cosplay, like going for screen accuracy cosplay, but that was like, I learned how to sew, I did all the leather work, and I chose that costume to meet Adam in because it was, to me, again, that was that story. It was my journey, and that costume represented my journey to that moment and into where I'm at. And to meet Adam, and that just, for me, even though he had no idea what that was, it meant so much to me. And so like one thing that I found was very interesting was I went to the autograph first with Savage, and then we did the photo op, and he remembered me from the autograph because he loves Solo as well. And at the photo op, he goes to me, he's like, "Didn't it feel great the first time that you put on that belt?" And that meant everything to me, because it is. It's like when you put on those parts of those costumes and you start to feel and become the character. That's why I feel that storytelling, because every part of that costume, as you go through and you make it and you put it on, like even like with my Solo, when I was making that costume, like what are the fabrics I'm going to use? You know, maybe there were certain things that were screen accurate, but also I looked at the inspiration for Solo as a character. Where did that come from? We're kind of looking, you know, we're talking space opera, space western, you know, so the jeans are more of a denim and they're tighter fit, and some of the stuff, and like, so even like my brown, even though like in A New Hope you have the blue denim for Solo, ESB, I ended up picking a little bit of a stretch, but it was a brown denim because I still felt like that was correct, right? You've got pen on his, he's got pen tracks, and he's got the writing seams. I mean, come on, it kind of needs to be denim, right? I don't know. That's just what I felt in picking each of those materials and being very selective and thinking about that story was really, really, really important. Yeah, again, if you can't tell, geeking out, totally excited about these costumes and looking forward to sharing them with you, my progress. And with that being said, there's one thing, because I was already gushing over Gordon, that I wanted to talk about. Because I get a lot of people asking me, how did I get to where I'm at? And how did I learn to do all this stuff? And a lot of it is, you can go, what's amazing is now we have such amazing resources with YouTube and just the internet, going on there and watching. But, you know, I find that there's sometimes nothing better than learning from an actual person, and sometimes in person too. Mentors. I love mentors. I love mentoring. I love teaching. Some of my favorite things to do. I will jump at the opportunity. But mentors. Let's talk mentors for a second. I've had so many. I've been so lucky in my life to have many quality mentors from when I got into programming. I had some amazing mentors that took me under the wings at Columbia College. It's the reason why I ended up actually going to programming versus web development, or like web design and just doing the design work. I wouldn't be what I'm doing if it wasn't for those mentors, seeing what I was good at and really just fostering that. And so now too, even in the costuming and cosplay, there's a lot of people locally that are amazing. I'm going to be working, and I'm very excited. Started already work with him, King Koi, who is just an amazing artist, an amazing prop maker. And he's I think excited to work with me because he sees how excited I am. I think he's kind of feeding off of it. But Ken, if you're watching, love you. But he's going to help me kind of learn how to do all the casting and all the molding stuff that I'm kind of really looking forward to do. Oh, I forgot to mention about Isaac. The hands. Ken actually helped me cast my hands so I can work on sculpting the gloves. Never done that before. Got a bunch of monster clay to start playing with. Again, I'm sure there'll be plenty of iterations on that one too. But these mentors have helped me out so much. I still even have them at my work today. There are two types of mentors. I think that's going to be a very important delineation to make if you take my advice about mentors. They are the mentors that you just happen upon in your regular life, and you kind of become friends, or they're within your circle of friends, or they're colleagues of yours. And they kind of see your excitement, and you might kind of start to build a relationship with it. And they might want to take you under your wing, or they might want a partnership with you. Those are always the best mentors. They're a little easier to manage. Just because you're both kind of going into it with similar expectations and you already kind of know each other. And those are great. But there's another type of mentor, and those are the mentors that you go and seek out, and oftentimes they might have distance between you. A perfect example for me is Gordon. Don't really know Gordon all that well. We've had interactions and talking, but Gordon is, he's kind of a mentor that I've sought out, and he's been immensely helpful. I think I might have mentioned it, but check out his YouTube channel. I have binge watched all of his videos. He is an inspiration. He shares so much. He is amazing. He does great work from prop making to every 3D. He has some great 3D like modeling tutorials and ZBrush. Check it out. It's awesome. But I bring that up because I know Gordon's really busy, and also people like even my buddy Ken. Both Gordon and Ken do prop making for a living. And so, looking at them for mentoring, but I also have to remember reaching out to them that their time is also their money, right? And also, Ken and I kind of have a better understanding where Gordon, since I sought him out, and I know he provides so much help for so many people, his time can be very limited. And so you need to be respectful. So those mentors, you should always be respectful of all your mentors, but specifically the ones that you seek out. They might be really busy, and you might be not the top priority on their mind, and they might have 50 to 100, who knows how many people are messaging them. So just be respectful of that. And if they give you one little tip, be grateful that you got that one little tip from them, and take it and cherish it and go do great things with it. But if you keep hounding those mentors and demanding their time, they're probably not going to get back to you, and you're not going to get out of it what you wanted in that relationship, and you might have just totally burned all your bridges. So be careful of that when you're looking for your mentors, and just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And with that, I think that's all I kind of wanted to talk about here in this first video. I know I might have rambled and it's a little long, but I think it kind of gives a good idea of who I am, what I want to share about these journeys, and my life, as everyone's life has been a journey, and I'm very much about I like to take the path of least resistance, and when I say that, it doesn't mean that it's not hard, but there's there's signs in your life that will kind of lead you in these directions. But if there's something that you really want, you need to take it and you need to grab it and you need to foster it. You need to do those things. Like if you really want to do it, you can do it. Because I have a lot of people that are just like, and I love, people, if you're one of those people and you know you've told me this, I love you. But it's more about, you know, I have a lot of people saying, I could never do that. I can't do it. I just could never, I don't know where to, you know, that kind of just not having that, I don't know, and it's just confidence, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. But the thing is, and just, we all have it inside ourselves to do these things. And I'm going to be a little cheesy here, but I love A Knight's Tale. And the one thing is that only you can change your stars, and you can do it. You can change your stars. If you want to do something, you just got to go out there. You have to grab it and do it. Have conversations, talk. And if you love what you're doing and you're inspired by other people and you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people, it's a lot easier to do that. And also, again, no failure. Remember, it's iteration. And also, it doesn't hurt to ask for help. You know, we all started somewhere and we all had no idea what we were doing. Trust me, I've made plenty of poor decisions in things, specifically even in props and buying props, and I've learned a lot. So it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a learning experience. And yeah, I'm going to end that there before I continue to tangent. Anyway, see you guys next time. Bye.